All right, episode 19.
19?
19? Yeah, Mitchell Square Podcast. And we have John McCarthy with us here today.
Hey, nice to be here, guys.
Great to have you here, man. How's things?
You know what? Things are busy. Family's doing well. Boys are playing rugby, soccer, staying busy for the summer. And my wife and I are really trying to make sure that they have a good one.
Yeah, man. Your son is, I've seen him play rugby a few times. He's played with my buddy Mickey from time to time. I think I saw him play a couple weeks ago. He's a pretty talented rugby player, isn't he?
Yes, well, it's funny. He started with the high school team, obviously. There was no lead-up prior to that, and his grandfather was originally a rugby player. So for him, I think he wanted to test it out to kind of, show Papa that he could do it as well, right? So he started with that, and he was pretty good. So Marcus Cookson reached out to me and said, you should take him up to the Nova Scotia tryouts. And I said, really? Because I had no clue what rugby is all about. I really don't know.
You never played yourself, right?
Never played it in my life. It was never around when I was in high school. So for that, I said, okay, we'll take him up. And he had a real good practice. He really liked his coach. And Brian Campbell was from Pictou. So we went to the next tryout, and he made the team.
Wow.
And,
oh, wow. How old is he?
Well, at that point, he was only 15.
Oh, my goodness.
So
is this like a men's team? Or?
No, this was just a provincial Celtics team.
Oh, okay.
So he made that team, and so every weekend we were traveling for practice back and forth to Halifax. And they went to the Atlantic Championships, did okay, and the following year he was named captain.
Wow. So it was a pretty quick increase in just, the teams that he was playing for. Yeah, it was just like a quick rise in the rugby world.
Really big transition. So the following year he played for the high school team, and he really done well and really blossomed with it. He started then kind of getting into the gym with me up at my gym in Dominion. So he started to fill out a little bit, and obviously the last 2 seasons were not a goal. Well,
of course.
Especially last year.
Which must have been pretty rough, too.
It was tough for him because, again, he kind of fell in love with the sport, so he was ready to
just take it right away.
Take on whatever came his way. So that, when they shut down on March 13th, he was supposed to leave for Ireland for a dual match.
That's a disappointment.
Yes,
Wow.
and but again, he took it with stride and continued on, and just went about his business and started training again. And like I said, he's with Mickey out there now playing in the men's league. So he's definitely stepping up his game with that challenges, with those challenges. But he loves it. He was over in over PEI this weekend with my wife, awesome. And I don't think they fared out too well, but he was pretty excited. He got a try and
nice.
and made some tackles, and I was pretty happy with his play. So.
Yeah, I'm still trying to wrap my head around understanding rugby. I've watched a few games, but I still don't necessarily understand all the rules. I mean, it looks very intense watching
I went
to
a couple tryouts. There's a lot of really obscure little rules. Like there's a lot of stop of play, but you got to be aggressive. It's a very interesting sport, man, and there's no gear. So you must have trained your son to box and stuff too. Do you think that kind of translated into his ability to deal with that type of aggression? Because it's just people coming at you head on. It's pretty intense.
Well, the funny part is I'm a ball player and I'm a boxer, as you just said, but none of my boys took to the sport in any manner. They did a little bit of training with it, but never really loved it. Mm-hmm. But he knew that getting stronger, and his coaches told him, you have to hit the weights, and this is what you need to do. So that was easy for me. I was able to point him in the right direction.
Just really applying that discipline,
right,
that you would have taken for boxing. He applies it to rugby.
That's right. And you talked about being aggressive. He played hockey and he played soccer. Mm-hmm. Pretty good in both sports. Soccer, I would say, better, but he never had that intensity, that aggressiveness. Mm-hmm. And as soon as he jumped on the rugby field, it was a whole different Matthew.
Oh,
he became, aggressive and in a safe manner, but he didn't back down from anything. And tackling is his favorite thing to do.
Yeah, no,
It's a very fulfilling feeling.
I would imagine. I only played
It must be.
soccer growing
It's
up,
kind of
so-
like me punching somebody. You know what I mean? You know, and them trying to punch you back. You know, it's that
What's the
challenge.
execution?
You land,
and
you start
succeeding.
gaining confidence. It's a
Yeah.
good feeling.
When did you get into boxing, and what made it so appealing to you?
Well, as I said earlier, I was a ball player. So being a ball player and not a hockey player, there wasn't anything for me to do in the winter. So I was 13 years old just after finishing up the Colonels and those types of things. And I moved on to fastball. And fastball is a much tougher ball to hit. So I was weaker. So I was kind of like a slap hitter at that point, where in hardball, I could hit the ball pretty good anywhere. So I decided to get in shape over the winter, and the boxing club was just down the road from me. So I said, you know what, I'll go down, start training, keep in shape for the winter, and started from there. So what happened was, you watch your buddies get in the ring and do some sparring and that kind of stuff, and you know you're training just as hard as they are. So I tried it, ended up with a few bloody noses and those types of things, and there was a novice championship coming up, and we had a big team from Ring 73 at that point. So I said, okay, I might as well give it a try. We went to Truro, and my first bout, I fought a guy from City Mines, actually, and we were hitting each other because I wouldn't call it boxing at that time for me. It was more of a street fight with gloves on. And anyway, he gave me an 8 count, and I said, okay, I got to step up my game here, and I turned it up a little bit and ended up stopping this boxer in the second round and moved on to my next fight. And a few of these guys, depending on the weight class, sometimes there's only 2 in the weight class.
So is this a tournament?
It is.
Oh,
yeah,
goodness.
it's a tournament. So it's a novice championships.
And this was your first time fighting in a ring.
First
with
time.
A little bit of an audience, and
Yeah.
wow.
So that kind of pressure. And back then I had a nose kind of that bled at will, really. If you get hit, it bleeds.
Right.
So
It got a little messy.
So that being said, that's why the doctor checked me out, because I was bleeding from the nose. So I had to box the next day, 2 fights. So I fought the first fight of the night, which pretty much went to the script of the first fight, where I took an 8 count, I was bleeding, doctor looked at me, checked it over, you know, you do a big sniff, make sure nothing comes out when the doctor's checking you, and we're back at it, stopped the boxer in the second round. And then I had to wait for the last fight of the night, and that's kind of stressful, because you see all your friends, they just won that little gold medal that means so much at the time.
Right.
And
And you were used to some successes playing baseball as well, leading up to that, right?
yes.
Yeah.
So anyway, I won that fight, and really I couldn't touch my cheeks or my forehead or anything else. It was pretty
Yeah.
tender at that point after three bouts in 2 days. But I was kind of hooked on the sport, and the training really intrigued me, because I liked sweating, I liked working hard, I liked that feeling.
It's very technical too, and you can
Yes,
just work
yeah.
and work and work. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how long did you continue boxing and progressing at that level? Like, I know you went to a pretty, like you traveled a bit,
You were
didn't you?
boxing
when you participated in
internationally, weren't you?
international tournaments.
Yes, well, I won the Canadian Championship when I was 15 years old, soon thereafter.
Oh, wow.
And
Wow, that's a
we-
quick
we-
Because you started at
escalation there, too.
13.
You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Similar to your son's story, actually.
Yeah, really.
Very
So I
adept.
went to Quebec, and I fought a guy from Ontario in the finals, who had 67 fights, and I had 6 at this
Oh,
time.
wow.
And I feel that my competition at that point in Nova Scotia was pretty tough, so I didn't feel intimidated in any manner. And I went out there, and I knew he could hit from what I saw in his previous bout before mine, and he hit me a nice right hand left hook, and then I realized that, hey, I can't get hit with that again, and if I want to win this fight. So I kept the pressure on. With boxing, for me, I wouldn't call myself a big heavy hitter. I wasn't extremely fast. I never had fast feet, but I did everything technically. I was at school, schooled myself in
Get your
those partic-
points and pick them apart.
Right on.
Yeah.
So, and sometimes I liked pressure, so that was really my game. I liked to have a high intensity when it came to fights.
Right. And so is that what that was like the peak of your boxing career? Was that when you won the Canadian Championship? What were the opportunities that were presented to you following that? Did you continue taking it seriously, or?
Yeah, I really did. At that particular point, I thought, well, what the heck, sky's the limits here.
Right.
Who knows where I can go with this?
And it happened in such a short period of time as well. So I would imagine you probably think that you can continue taking it much further.
Yes, and again, at this point, I was still training for ball. And fastball really started taking off for me. I was captain of my local team, and then when I turned 16, just soon after I won the Canadian Championship, I made the Canada Games team for fastball. So I had to move to Muscadabbit in just outside Halifax,
right,
to live with the coach to play on this team with two local guys, Tommy Martin from Bridgeport and Glenn Brand from Donkin. So at that point, kind of boxing had a little lull for me about 4 months where I had to concentrate on ball, right? So for that, I'm very vocal and very engaged in whatever I do, and fortunately, they chose me to be captain of that team. So I was youngest on the team. The team goes from 16 to 19, but I was chosen for captain just due to the fact that I'm very vocal on the field, trying to keep players on their toes and, sharp and ready for the game.
Clearly driven.
Well, yes, and I felt if I didn't say, hey, all right, ball comes to me, I'm flipping it to you, let's turn two. So I felt like I had to say these plays out loud before they ever happened.
Right.
Right. And to me, if you know what you're doing before it happens, it's easy to execute.
And I'm sure there's a lot of different traits that you have gotten from the amount of discipline that you've had to apply when it came to training for fastball or boxing that you've learned and applied to your everyday life. And I'm sure you're probably pretty fortunate for those experiences, because I feel like sports is a great way to kind of introduce yourself to take the importance of teamwork and just hard work and discipline at a young age. So do you think that with those experiences definitely helped kind of carve you into the person you are today?
Without question. And what I sat myself down and had a talk when I was in grade 11 is that the facts are I'm going to be in grade 12 real soon. I'm moving on. And once I'm done grade 12, what are you going to do, John? Right? So, and at that point, I really didn't know. I knew that I really enjoyed working with young people. So I thought, what can I do with that? But I wasn't your ideal student. School wasn't a priority for me at this point.
You get a lot of balance.
I loved sports, and that's where I put my energy towards. So when I had that little chat with myself, I started to put that time into schooling. So not that I was a scholar by any sense of it, but I knew that if I did it and I put my time in, I could succeed and get to that university level that I wanted to get to. So boxing kind of just shifted my training to schooling.
And it allowed you to understand what you needed to do to be disciplined enough to get where you wanted in schooling.
Right, it was just shifting gears.
So when you were hitting 12th grade, did you kind of put the sports priority to the side and then you prioritized your academics a little bit more than you previously were doing?
I wouldn't say I put it aside.
Right.
I just learned to manage a little better.
Yeah.
And then I had my priorities
Which is pretty impressive at a young age, because some people don't really kind of get a good grasp on how to properly balance multiple things until they're in their mid-20s sometimes. So the fact that you had a lot on your plate as a young athlete, it definitely, and for you to be able to be self-aware enough to realize, hey, okay, if I'm going to take this, what am I going to be doing after I get out of high school? I need to take that same kind of discipline and apply it to my schoolwork is, it's quality trait that you probably picked up from boxing and baseball.
Right. Well, those little pats on the back along the way kind of kept me, interested and wanting more for myself. So by the time you're ready to graduate, I was at the senior level for boxing at this point. So that being said, it's a whole new level of training. You really need to take your sport serious, or to me, it's not something you can just have fun with.
Yeah.
You have to take it serious or you're going to get hurt. So for that matter, I trained hard enough to make the national team once again. And by doing that, I became a carded athlete, and it was the Petro-Can carded athletes of all of Canada. You had to qualify and become a certain level to get this money. So by me having so many international bouts, we fought U.S. quite often, we fought the Irish quite often. Ring 73 boxing club here in Glace Bay did a fantastic job of bringing in boxers for me to continue on stepping up and stepping up and stepping up. And the international competition that I had allowed me to qualify for this Petro-Canada. So I ended up with a scholarship for university.
Just based off of your boxing success.
That's right.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so that was huge for me, coming from a social assistance family with, little or nothing.
So talk about that a bit too, because I saw that you mentioned that in the some of the campaign videos that you've been putting out on Facebook. What was your background like, just personally growing up?
Well, when I was going through it, I thought I had things pretty calm. I thought boxing and ball was keeping me at a normal level, just like every other kid. But, on the street, sometimes I was in a few fisticuffs. And the reason that happened was I was a boxer. So
People
I was
thought you
only
were the
as
tough guy.
they looked at
We've
me
heard a
as
similar story to this one. Yeah,
they
Brian,
they looked at me like, oh, he's only 156 pounds, this guy. He don't look too tough to me.
Yeah, let's.
So
pick
that
on him.
being said, when push came to shove, I didn't take a step back. I felt that being on social assistance and having little or nothing every day was enough being down for me. So when somebody else tried to push me down a little further, I wasn't letting it happen. So for that, I kind of stepped up and looked after myself, and I didn't realize how angry I was as a kid. My parents split up when I was 13, so I was kind of the man of the house. I have my sister that was younger than me, and you guys got a glass of water maybe?
I'll go
sorry.
grab.
I
Yeah, you
apologize.
can go in the house and grab it. I actually met.
There's a drink there. I don't know if you'd be interested in it. It's blood orange.
I don't
thing
mind.
that I
Give it
picked
a
up.
shot.
Sorry about
Try
that,
to try
guys.
something new. No, I'm sorry about that. Yeah, I actually meant to do that when I was going to the house, and then I saw you pull in, and I was like, we got to get it rolling right now, I guess. Sorry about that. But you got to stay hydrated out here.
Just let me know if you want water. I love those things. But
No,
not
that's
for
great.
everybody.
Sweet.
Just the voice gets a little dry after.
Yeah, after
that.
you're talking for a bit, I notice that sometimes too. And
So
sometimes
long.
I won't prepare myself, but no, totally relatable. But yeah, so you were saying you were getting a few fights when you were. It was almost like you kind of had the attitude. Well, you said nobody's gonna push me down anymore. It's like, well, I have nothing to lose here. You're used to stepping up in situations where it's required for you to kind of be the man, and you don't want anyone to push you around. So
Yeah, so by living at home, like I said, with being the older kid, I just felt like there was a little pressure there to be better. So with that, I didn't want to go any further down. So when someone challenged me to a fight for one reason or another, I kind of accepted it pretty easy. And as I beat one person or beat the next person, there's always somebody else.
yeah,
that
the
wants
word gets out.
there's always somebody else.
Oh, wow.
And that's just the way it is. Now, I went to Morrison High School. Back then we had two high schools.
I know, that's crazy.
Right? So back then in Morrison, I was kind of known that, as a fighter, let's say. But I never ever boxed or fought anybody from Morrison in my life. St. Mike's, they, rumors
There's
start.
There
rivalries.
was an ongoing feud.
Right. Now, these days, texting and everything else gets out there way too fast for people. So
Which sometimes can be a lot more harmful.
right.
Yeah.
Because there's no thinking. It's just instant.
Yeah.
You know?
Impulsive thoughts that get sent out forever,
Right.
basically.
So, but back then, let's call it the old days, rumors started. Oh, listen, he did this, he did that. Now he wants to fight you. Never did those words come out of my mouth. And to be honest, anybody that I ever did fight on the street, I could sit down with them today and have this conversation because I never went looking for it. Again, sometimes I really should have.
But you were young.
Yeah, I should have walked away though.
You know,
like in hindsight, I should have walked away from a few instances where
Right.
I knew that, this kid is just angry. He's trying to make a name for himself. I should have walked away. I should have been more proud and just did it. Right. And I've tried as my years got on over time. And anyway, when it came to the third time, sometimes I obliged them. And not to say that I ever beat anybody real bad.
You never went looking for it.
No, but even when I knew that I won that fight, I wasn't into kicking. I wasn't into taking that extra shot. I wasn't into embarrassing anybody.
No,
But
you do what has to be done. And
but-
You had some sportsmanship even in the streets.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I tell you, boxing and ball really, they kept me calm.
Right.
So I didn't have that straight and narrow life. I tell you that some people do.
But you know what? I think that is important for you to speak on because that shows that you're human,
And inspiring. I mean, the poverty rate here is, not great. And I think that you're a great example of, being able to take that, say attitude issues and put them into a sport, dedicate yourself to something and becoming more disciplined and having a positive outcome from that. Like obviously it's hard to start there to begin with, but you can use that to your advantage instead of, letting it weigh you down your whole life, and you can get somewhere with it like you clearly did.
Yeah, well, I always revert back to a quote my mother gave to me when I was like any other kid when I was in high school. Mom, can I stay home? Mom, can I stay home? No, go to school. Go to school. This one day she said to me, yeah, stay home. And I looked at her. I said, really? What do you mean stay home? She said, if you want to live like this the rest of your life, not knowing if you have anything in that fridge, not having the good clothes, not having anything for your own kids, not having your own home, go to bed. I jumped in the shower, and like I said, not to say that things went straight for me as a straight line, but it rang through to me, and here I am talking about it today, right? And you can't wish for it, you have to work for it, and that's pretty much my mentality.
I totally agree with that. It's interesting how simple it actually is. If you want to work towards anything like myself with music or even building something up like this or anything like that, it's really eye-opening once you realize the people that you idolize that are your biggest inspirations. How did they get to that place that you want to get to? They just worked for it. They applied themselves, and they were disciplined.
Create a plan and just take it down step by step.
Yeah, and again, I think it's like anything. The more you dedicate yourself to it, people gravitate to you that know that, hey, this guy really wants to be something. He wants to do something, whether it's a musician or whether it's an athlete or whatever it is.
Right.
Somebody usually can recognize and say, hey, I'll help you out along the way. So Ring 73 was so great to me because they gave us money for food at times. They looked after us. When we went away to boxing trips, Ring 73 had bingo at those times. So we worked bingo. So when we went away to box in Truro or Halifax or New Brunswick or PEI or Newfoundland, those trips were paid for.
Right.
They fed us, they transportation, and they looked after us. And to me, I never would have had that opportunity if it wasn't for such a great organization. And it's what keeps me going back there and helping out as much as I can now today.
So when did you start the boxing gym? 'Cause I know you've had that for quite a bit of time, right?
At my own place, or
Yeah, well, I see online that you're training people and everything like that. So
well,
what kind of inspired you to start that up? And because I feel like you've always had this high, you hold leadership at a high level of importance to yourself, and it seems like that's kind of the role that you play throughout your career and when you were in sports, and obviously you train boxers as well, right? So
well, like I said, Ring 73 got me off the island. They really got me seeing different places, and when I made the national team, I was able to travel around the world, as we kind of touched on a little bit earlier. I've been to South Africa, I've been to Thailand, I've been to Denmark and France and Italy.
and this is after high school?
This is
Okay.
after high school, because I was in university,
Right.
which kind of
Made it
my
difficult to balance, I would imagine.
right. But they were great at CBU.
Mhm.
Back then it was UCCB.
UCCB, yeah.
And but they were great professors, and they allowed you to do things ahead of time or afterwards. But getting back to your question, I started my own gym 5 years after I moved back home, because we were in Ontario for a little while. So I was coaching at Ring 73. I had 2 young boys.
How old were you at this time?
I was probably 30, 35, 36.
Okay.
So I was starting to coach at that point. And I had 2 young boys. So with that being said, my wife is a lawyer, so she was working her own hours with her own firm there in Sydney, Sampson McDougall at that time. And so I would take my boys up to Ring 73, and a half hour into it, they'd be asleep on the middle of the floor.
Yeah.
I don't know if parenting was great at that time, what I was doing, but they were exposed. They saw it. They loved all the boxing, everything, all the commotion that was going on. But it got to the point where after 5 years of doing this, obviously they never slept every day, but they got there at the point now they didn't want to hang around the boxing gym anymore. Dad, school's over. I want to go hang with my friends. I want to do nothing. I want to go to soccer. So I made a decision that I had to step away from Ring 73 at this point. And at this time, my wife and I, we were just in the hunt for a house. And we looked around for a number of places. I found a big place in Dominion, very old home. It was built in 1896, but it had 2 beautiful garages. So with that being said, I said, why don't we look into this place, and maybe I'll open a gym, because I knew I wanted to help somebody. I knew I wanted to give back in some way, but she said, really? Do you think it'll go? I said, yeah, who knows? And that being said, we bought it in December. I went away with a few of my buddies to a football trip that next week, and I was pitching the idea to them, and they were saying, yeah, you should. I'll invest in it. And I was there, really? I was kind of surprised.
Well, you had the name and the credentials, so.
And that's where they were going with it, because they knew that people knew me in the community. So when I came back home from that trip, I said to Candy that I think I'm going to make a go of this. And I have some of the boys looking to invest, and I think we're going to be okay. She looked at me, she said, if you're going to do it, we're going to make it work ourselves. We'll put our own money into it, and that way you can work on your own time, when you want, and how much you want. So that was a big thing to hear from my wife, because I knew she had my back at that point. She knew that this was a passion for me anyway, and so we made it work. And that following March, I opened up John Johnson Knockout Fitness, and we talked about what, how would we make the name, that kind of stuff. So my buddies wanted to incorporate boxing of some kind, so we came up with Knockout. And then they said, well, it's your name that's going to bring them there, so let's put John John's Knockout. And I said, okay, let's put John John's Knockout Fitness. So from that point on, I trained, and I thought I would train athletes. I thought I'd train people that wanted
fitness,
to make it to the next level, right? So when I put it out there on Facebook, it was kind of instant. I didn't expect a big response right away from Cape Breton. I don't see it as a spot that was in a need for personal trainers. So anyway, I started filling in spots, and as they came in the door, there was more women coming through the door that realized that, hey, I have to look after myself too, not just the kids, not just my family. And they started looking after themselves. So it kind of opened my eyes up to, oh my God, there's a whole lot of people out there that really need some help. They just need that encouragement, and they need a little bit of accountability, which I gave them. So, and it kind of the sky's the limit after that.
Yeah, you have a pretty diverse clientele, don't you? Because I remember hearing of like hockey players and all kinds of just random people that you were training. But I was like, he's a boxer. He's training these guys, training those, like all kinds of athletes. Like it's not really primarily a boxing gym.
No, it's not a boxing gym at all, to be honest.
Well, you said there was just people that were just wanting to get into shape.
Yep.
Just for health reasons.
So
right?
that's where I started off with. I just started making up programs, individual programs for these people. Obviously, some were at a lower level and some were at a higher level. But I've had guys, trying to make the Q, trying to make the AAA team,
Nice.
and make the university football teams.
So it's definitely high-level athletes that are training there.
I had them as well.
Mm-hmm.
But then I had, the lady that, she wants to do 3 days a week because she's, tired of sitting around and not feeling good about herself or not feeling good where her weight is or otherwise.
Right.
And the weight part is one thing, but the mental part and feeling great, as you guys know, when you're exercising, you just feel that much better.
I got into weightlifting when I was 14, and it was like it was my whole world for like a couple of years. I went to the gym. I'd be there for like 4 hours. I wouldn't talk to anybody. You know what I mean? Just head down, just hit the weights. But you're very interested in reaching out to the youth and stuff too. I think that you're a good, I guess, spokesperson for that kind of lifestyle, like getting into the sports young, especially where, like we were talking about before, there's a lot of people who are kind of down on themselves that started in a similar situation as you. And there's opportunities that sports can bring to them. Not like it teaches them discipline, gives them that positive mental health aspect, and gives them opportunities.
And with my gym, there's a fee if you want to train there. So the fee was $20 an hour, which to me is pretty expensive for an area with such challenges as far as work goes. But I knew that if I was going to be away from my family and putting in time to somebody else, then it had to be worth it for my family and for this client. So I knew if they walked in the door and they were paying that, they were going to be serious about it themselves.
Yeah.
And I knew that I wasn't just there killing an hour's time, right? Because I want to help these people, but they need.
But you were providing value of a high tier.
Right.
That made it worth spending that money per hour.
So that being said, things moved forward pretty fast for me as far as that goes, and my clientele changed over time, like any business really would, because then I had men who really don't like to reach out for help started to message off, say, hey, I'm looking to get in better shape because I want to do this, I want to do that, or I want to go on a trip or something else. So whatever their reason was, they started to reach out, and more men became in my gym, which was another aspect that I never thought would happen.
Yeah, well, I feel like with men, there's like testosterone gets in the way, and there's like too much pride to like begin. Like I remember when I started going down and not being with people that were going to teach me, I was like, what do I do? I'm scared to ask. I don't want to, you know what I mean? And I stood around for like 15 minutes before I finally worked up the courage to be like, all right, man, what do I do to work my arms? Like, how do I do this? But if you can find somebody that you're comfortable with telling you that information, that's just getting in that door and starting that ball rolling is huge.
Exactly. And so, and then they realize, hey, this is not so bad. It's not so bad. So once I saw one man, and the next guy asked me, hey, do you have any men up there? Yes, I do.
Yeah.
And then it went from there. So then the door
opened. They know they're not the only one.
Right.
So it makes it feel a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah. And getting back to the kid issue, some families just never had the money to do it. And my clients know me. I'm fair. Those that can pay the fee, I don't mind taking that money from them and understand that, hey, we have this mutual
exchange for a service.
Exchange, right? But they also know that if somebody is in need, I'm going to give it to them for free or at a very low price, whatever needs to be.
You're about helping the people.
So I allow that conversation to happen as soon as they reach out to me, for the most part. So with that, I feel that the need is even more greater than I thought.
Definitely. And I think that just from how you were describing the different types of clients that you're receiving at the gym, I think over time it probably naturally developed an interest in just for you to just kind of help improve people's livelihoods, and I think that maybe naturally kind of transition and help you kind of take on the role that you're the direction that you're heading now with the election that's coming up, and the role that you're running in is, you have an interest and a passion for uplifting people and helping them see,
Their
opportunities
potential
and bettering
developing.
themselves. And I think that could be attributed to, taking on these clients one-on-one or however you were doing it, and helping them improve their life.
Well, you're probably right. I don't see it as that, that transition all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But when I started teaching, I saw these kids, struggling in my class. At the beginning of my career, I started out with a behavioral type class where a lot of these kids, they had issues at home for one reason or another. Sometimes, the cards that they were dealt were not great, and how you played them sometimes is not great. So some of these parents reached out to me and asked would I train their kids, so that transition of seeing me in a different light really opened my eyes as well, because these kids started to respond in different manners because, hey, Sir's not just a teacher, he trains, he does this, he's with his kids, so they see other aspects that, we have that tunnel vision. Oh, he's just a teacher.
Yeah, well, when they can train with you, they can bond with you over something, and it gives them more of a reason to respect you. You're not the random guy in front of them at once a day.
That's right. And when you tell them, hey, and you're patting them on the back and you're saying great job, you can see that confidence. You can see the demeanor.
Some kids don't even get that at all.
Or at home or anything.
Yeah,
so it
that's
gives
what I
them an
mean,
opportunity to understand that they can make a difference. And I think that them training with you, could be pivotal moments in their life to kind of increase their confidence.
And it's different because you say that in the classroom, but it just doesn't have the same ring to people.
Because they have to go to school.
Right. And,
Yeah, they do well
and
on
the
a test.
teacher,
It's not.
the teacher should be saying this, those types of things. But when they're getting it out of random people and random times like me, then it means that much more to
It's a
them.
little bit more impactful.
Right. So, as you said, I think me getting into politics is really a direct factor, I would say, from the background that I've had, the challenges that I've faced and kind of overcome for sure. But I think every kid, every family, they're just looking for a break along the way, and they're looking for that person maybe to come along and give them that. So that being said, I feel that if they see me get to where I am today and made some strides and have my struggles, like obviously I had my struggles. I did some fighting on the street and those types of things, and I wasn't that A student in class. But when you shift gears and you decide, hey, this is what I want, then really you can do it.
And it's like you're a great example because there's a lot of people that are set up for success. You know what I mean? They're born into a good family. They go straight to the best schools. Boom, 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 boom. You really made that happen. You know what I mean? And that's good to just have you as a leader to show people, like, this is what's possible in this community. It doesn't need to be, I feel like there's always negative air around, but like to be able to see you leading people, right? That it's a perfect example of what you can do here.
Well, thank you. And I have a motto that I kind of live by, is that it costs nothing to be kind, and the payoffs are big, because people remember the kindness. And when I travel with Team Canada or Team Nova Scotia or Team Ring 73, when I introduce myself as John McCarthy from Glace Bay, Ring 73. No matter where I went in the world, right? They knew that I'm John McCarthy from Team Canada, but I represented my hometown first and foremost, and Nova Scotia, of course, right? But I tell my kids, make sure you shake hands, which is kind of a little tough to do these days
Hit elbows.
with all this COVID going on. But it's knocking elbows or making fist pumps or those types of things.
Or just say hey.
Yes,
Yeah.
So that's a different aspect for them, and they'll have to figure that out along the way. But myself, I'll be glad when we get back to hopefully shaking hands again
Yeah.
and those kinds of things.
I think we're almost there. Fingers
Yeah.
crossed. So what motivated you to run in the upcoming election?
Again, it was all about the kids to me. I've been in the behavior program, and last year I was in learning center program, and I just see that these kids want to do more. And when I had this learning center class, I had a phys ed component of a class. It was called PAL, right? So to me, I took these kids down pretty much as I could, because we were only a small class. Even with all the COVID restrictions, we were able to do it. We had our masks on, social distancing, and these kids thrived. So to me, if you lead them and you show them that you can do this, then maybe I can show some more people. Right. And what I thought was, if I'm making an impact in my own gym, I'm making an impact on my own kids and these kids at school over so many years, then why not try making Nova Scotia an impact on them all, and all of Glace Bay and all of Dominion and all of Cape Breton.
Right.
So that was really my goal.
Right. And if you were to be elected, what would be, what direction would you like to see Glace Bay go towards? Because I drive down Glace Bay. I drive downtown Glace Bay, and I just see, myself a lot of potential. Like, I would love to see more people up and down the street, more restaurants, just more activity, more events and everything like that. And I think there's the potential. And I think as people, younger people with a lot of energy are sticking around here, and they're putting their ideas to the forefront, and, seeing some other people have success, they kind of realize that, it's possible for themselves. So, yeah, like where, just, best case scenario, where would you like to see the direction of, Glace Bay and your community go?
It's like anything. You have to have a dream, and you start there with your vision. But I feel that Dave Soller and Undercurrent down there, he's on the right track.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's giving kids something to do,
Get
right?
as many kids involved and active and interactive in as many different aspects as possible. I think a center like Undercurrent could really grow in Glace Bay. I know that it's happening over in the Waterfort now. They just got a big announcement, and I know Dave is trying to really rejuvenate North Street Club over there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
nice. I grew up on North Street.
That to me is hope and excitement, and these kids want to get involved in that. So if I can help that become a reality, I look at the splash pad over there that they've done over there in South Street. It's getting people out of the house, getting them interactive.
We need that more than ever right now.
Well, when we were in high school, there was, like, even if there was something to do, it wasn't, like, in your face. You know what I mean? Like, you didn't know what opportunities you had here, and there wasn't really a lot of them. And I love what Dave Soller did. Like, there's kids of all ages go down there and skate or whatever. Like, they don't even need to skate. It's just somewhere to hang out, be out with people, be social, instead of, like, when you have nothing, there's a lot of bad places you can go. When you can teach, when you can give kids, say, a free opportunity to learn a sport, you know what I mean? They can, if they fall in love with that can take them anywhere. You know what I mean? And we didn't, like I said, like when we were in high school, there was nothing real. I'm sure there were some programs, but it wasn't super accessible. But I feel like that just having that would take a lot of kids out of trouble.
No question. And we do have our soccer programs, and we do have our Little League programs. But again, Little League is not what it was, what once was, where people are not playing in the playgrounds. They're not having ball games out in the fields anymore like they used to, right? So these programs need to be organized, and they need to be...
I think they need to be advertised.
I think there also needs to be
brought to the youth.
Right. Like, I think, and there's a lot of opportunities for kids if they want. I mean, I played sports and stuff growing up as well, but, when my interest kind of transitioned into writing my own songs and, like, trying to find a place to record, and I was buying equipment from Long and McQuaid and trying to figure out how to set it up myself. Luckily, I found a few people that I could, they had a home studio set up. I go there, record, make music, and kind of have to do a little bit of research to figure out how to progress in that particular aspect. But I think if there was a center, and maybe there is, early developing stages of that around. I've seen a couple things here and there.
Like that.
Yeah, but even in Glace Bay, because I know there's a lot of. I went and spoke to like Glace Bay High 2 years ago just to talk about my career and what I've done in that space, and you know, there was kids coming up to me showing like, you know, digital art that they were making, or they were interested in writing songs, or they recorded this, or just there's a lot of creative kids here too. And I think that if there was like a space, and I know Undercurrent has done some stuff like that in the past, I believe, but like even if there was a recording studio that was kind of, there's like at the library in Halifax, they have a studio there. It's free. You just got to book time, and just stuff like that. I feel like just something to
as
like
many
you said,
outlets as possible for kids to,
occupied, yeah.
if they can think of something they're interested in, be like, you know, I can go downtown and do that, and at a relatively cheap or free, you know, price
to keep them out of trouble and make
like,
them more productive.
And like I said, if we don't think about that, then it never will happen, right?
And it starts with kids too, because they're going to be the future of that community. They're going to pass that, you know, positive attitude down.
It starts with a generation, and if you can get one group really positive and looking forward to what's going on in your neighborhood, I'm like you. I think Glace Bay has so much potential. The people that are moving back from away is greater now than it ever has been. My wife, as I said earlier, is a lawyer, and she's doing real estate deal after real estate deal where people, and I mean business people and working people, are coming back. They're not just coming back to retire. They're coming back to say, hey, this is a pretty good spot. They're pretty safe down here. You know, things look to be going very well in Cape Breton and Nova Scotia. So for that matter, they're coming back. It's creating a little bit of problem for us, though, with affordable housing. You know, with one good thing, there's always some counterproductive thing that's going to happen. So affordable housing is really important these days, because when I lived on social assistance and lived in the housing group, you had 2 or 3 houses on your street that were vacant. Nowadays, these are filled, right? So we need, as a government, whether that's the Liberals again or another government, to really take that to the forefront. And to me, giving that access of a home to people and somewhere that they can be proud of is a start. That's where you start.
Definitely. How have you found the reception from just going door to door? I've seen you've been posting a lot about that and just spending probably majority of your summer so far just every day. I mean, I saw you going up the street a couple days ago.
Yeah.
Obviously, you enjoy that quite a bit, right? And just getting out there and speaking to the people.
Well, as you can hear me talking today, I can talk. So that being said, I love talking to the people at the doors. I love to hear what their issues are, because sometimes you live in that little bubble of your own. I travel on that same path, and to veer off that path sometimes doesn't happen for quite a while, right? We all have our things that we're going to do, X, Y, and Z. So I'm hearing lots of things at the doors, but I'm hearing lots of positive as well. I think that they're very content and happy with how the government handled COVID. I think they feel safe and, you know, and comfortable in our leader. Back then it was Steve McNeil, and they're very comfortable with Ian Rankin, the premier. So to me, the vibe is very good at the doors. I think that sky's the limits. I feel that John Morgan and John White, they've had a following in the past. They've both ran campaigns, and you know they have that pocket of people. Where myself, the pocket of people that I have are these Liberals that really see the infrastructure that's happening here in Cape Breton and Glace Bay, whether it's renovations to NSCC, the new building out there, moving down the waterfront, or the Miners Museum getting fixed up, or the Savoy getting fixed up, or the General at in Glace Bay here, the hospital. You know, things are really starting to pick up, and they see that, hey, these guys are really committed to making our area better. And I think that vision of the Liberals is starting to catch on more and more, because I've had people, I go knock on doors with one sign or another sign on their lawn, and when I'm done, I'm pretty confident that, hey, I might get their vote come the end of it, because they are hearing what I'm telling them. They're seeing it around our community.
And you're there to listen to them, which is super important to a lot of these people.
And I'm on their doorstep, and I'm running up lanes, and I'm running down. So I see it as
it helps to stay in shape as well.
I see it as a fitness.
Yeah, you're training too.
The biggest thing for me is, and I know a lot of people are not going to like me for this, but I really have to eat a lot of food to keep some weight on.
Right.
Because I don't want to get too thin.
Yeah.
And it's a
Well, that
problem.
I've had that issue before too.
Well, you know what? That could be part of your personal training too. You just take people door to door with you.
Yes.
You know, get some cardio in.
Get the Rocky crowd running.
Well, another thing is too, regardless of who they're voting for, whose sign they have in their yard. I mean, it's great for you to just at least have the opportunity to hear what their concerns are and take that into account as well. And they at least, maybe their decision was made previously based off of the last election, and they didn't do the research, or they didn't take the time to hear what every candidate had to say. And you took the opportunity, and you're continuing to take the opportunity to go door to door and at least get the chance to tell them, you know, your thoughts on things and hear them out. And you know, even if they go with somebody else at the end of the day, at least they took into account before making that decision what you had to offer. And like you said, it could change a few people's opinions as well.
Well, and you're so right. And to me, I take that approach just like I take the approach with my students at school. I try to reach out to, like I said earlier, I deal with some challenging students at the time in my past. And so I like to reach out to these guardians, parents, and let them know that I'm on their side. I understand that, you know, some struggles are going to happen. Not every day is going to be a great day. Hey, send me off a text if it was a bad morning. Send me off a text. So I'm aware when little Joe comes in the door that, hey, he had a rough morning. I have to kind of make my day work around him a little bit just to make sure that he's comfortable and he's enjoying his day. So me reaching out to these people on the doorsteps, they may have an issue later on down the road. If they feel comfortable with me already, they already talked to me, they know that, hey, I understand if you're with one party or another. That's okay. The differences are good, right? But I want them to know that when the time comes, if I am your MLA, I got your back.
Right.
You want to try and accommodate
It's like
those
you're
needs,
working with the people, not essentially just trying to be the voice of the people. You want to be in there with the people, see what their issues are. Let's come up with an idea to how to resolve this or improve the situation, and then we'll try to take it further.
You bet.
Yeah.
And I don't have all the answers, and I'm never going to say that I do, but when that problem is posed to me, then once I find that avenue to get there, then I'm going to ask the tough questions to whoever that is in charge. And, you know, maybe I hit that roadblock and I finally get to the point where, hey, this can't happen. I don't mind making that call. Is it going to be a tough one? But you're going to hear that, sorry, this is what I tried, A, B, C, and D, and I'm unable to help.
And people love that transparency, regardless, because that's the thing. You just want to know that you tried, regardless.
That's right.
Before we wrap it up here, I don't want to keep you for too long, but where can people go to just communicate with you as far as if they had any questions for the regarding the campaign? When can they vote? Where can they vote?
Well, voting starts, the early polls start next Saturday, August 7th to the 14th, and that'll be at the Miners Forum for our area of Glace Bay-Dominion. So every day you can vote now at the returning office. It's in behind Commercial Street in Glace Bay. So you can vote every day there. All you need is your license. And on voting day, you'll have your certain area. It depends. I think there's 51 polls in Glace Bay. So you'll have to check your local area. Excuse me. Sometimes it's a church. Sometimes it's miners' forum.
Yep.
You know, it depends. The fire stations. So those types of places will be ready to go on election day. And so I feel there's plenty of opportunities. There's write-in ballots up to August 7th. So if you don't want to go to the polls, they will bring a write-in ballot for you, and you can send it off. And right now there's they come to the door and they will get you to vote right there in front of them, and they will take your vote with you. So there's plenty of opportunities. Myself, we didn't touch on some of my videos that I've done out there
Right, yeah, if you
for
wanna
our
talk about
election.
them, for sure,
So you can check me out on Facebook at my election page. It's electjohnjohn.ca. And that being said, you can check out my own personal page where some videos are out there that I made with my family and the community places that I've gone and been involved with. And I'm on YouTube, as strangely enough, as my son says, Dad, I just saw you on YouTube. And so check out some videos there, get to know me and my family, and that way, when you make that decision, you know what I'm about.
Yeah, and all the videos are on the Elect John John Facebook page as well, right? That's where I was watching them before. Who's the one that's filming all those videos as well? Because they're really impressive, dude.
Well, Jason LaFrance from North Sydney has done the majority of our videos, and Colin McGuinness is a great young guy with a huge mind, and he's kind of leading under the way for us for this communication team.
Nice. Yeah, those videos as well.
Very well put together.
Yeah, very well put together, and they get right to the point. They take I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but they grasp everything about your come up and your background and what your beliefs are and your work ethic in a very short form, which is perfect. It's very direct, and it helps people get a quick understanding of what you're about.
Well, the facts are I'm not the smooth talking politician, and I'm never going to be. But I feel that I'm going to stumble over some things, and I'm going to mess up here and there. But I'm okay with that. I feel that I've come across many obstacles in my day, and to me, it's just another one that I'm going to have to, get over going forward. So, with that being said, I think that sky's the limits for me at that point.
Yep.
And we'll see where it goes.
And last but not least, how do you feel running against two people that have the same name as you?
Well,
you're two Johns.
He's two Johns, so he's more John than the other John.
It's basically an even fight. It's two Johns versus two other Johns.
Yeah, it's true.
Yes, and I don't know if you heard my statement before. I was on the news recently where my wife said only in Glace Bay-Dominion would we have 3 candidates and 4 Johns.
So, it's funny, man.
It's pretty interesting.
I'm sure that's never happened before.
No, and I think that
that has virality potential. That could pick up online. You should get your sons to start sharing that around. My dad's running, and he's running against 2 people that have the same name as him, 3 Johns.
Well, I was just Googling you earlier, trying to dig up, some information on you, and the first article I think I read was like, regardless of who wins, it's gonna be John. I was like, that's so funny. Like,
but it's all are they all? It's everything. It's all J-O-H-N.
I thought it was J-O-N.
There's no J-O-N's.
Yeah, they're all spelled the same.
Yeah.
And
it's gonna be John, John, or John.
It is kind of humorous for sure for a lot of people and my friends.
I think it's actually gonna bring more people into the election just because they're like, that's so wacky.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this election is definitely going to be a challenging one for every candidate because, like I said, I think everybody brings their own little piece of Glace Bay with them and their own history. So that being said, I really do encourage people to get out and vote because with the summer, sometimes it can be a low turnout. And I think, they're probably expecting a low turnout across Nova Scotia. I feel with Glace Bay and having all the Johns.
The John.
I think it's going to be a little bit higher turnout. And I feel if the party who does the best job of getting their votes to the polls will win.
Yeah, definitely. Well, any other questions? I
think we had a very similar question, so I think we're good.
Yeah. What about you, Jason? You good? Sweet. Well, John, appreciate having you. Oh, well, maybe we'll do that. We'll do the fist bump. There we go. Yeah, sweet. Episode 19, and we're out.